The weak beg for healing. The powerful reshape themselves. In this video, we do not chase comfort, we dissect ruin. You will learn how to weaponize your past, exploit your weakness, and rise not reborn, but recalibrated for dominance. If you've been broken good, that is the perfect place to start a strategy. Power is not inherited. It is manufactured, often in silence, and always in shadows. The man who crawls from ruin with clear eyes and sharpened intent is far more dangerous than the one who never fell. You are not here to be comforted. You are here to learn how to turn pain into precision, vulnerability into leverage, and despair into discipline. In these principles, we do not seek redemption. We seek total reconstruction, cold, calculated, and unstoppable. You are not to heal, you are to mutate. Let us begin. They told you ruin was the end. They were wrong. Collapse is the most honest state a man can enter. Stripped of illusion, exposed, cracked open. And in that exposure lies your one true advantage. Everything built before your fall was probably a lie, a performance, a mask, a structure designed for others. Parents, lovers, institutions. And when that structure burns, all that remains is you and the question, what now? History remembers the victors, but it breeds them in disaster. Do you believe Julius Caesar was born powerful? No. He clawed upward after being captured by pirates, mocked, ransomed, and released. He swore to return and crucify every last one of them. He did. The humiliation wasn't a scar. It was a blueprint. He learned how to not be prey again. This is the difference. The masses try to recover. The rulers, they reforge. You see, pain is not meant to be healed. It is meant to be studied. Ruin is a case file. Dissect it. Who betrayed you? What flaw did they exploit? Where were you blind, soft, hopeful? If you don't ask these questions, you'll repeat the collapse. You'll walk back into the same trap, smiling. But if you do dog, you become something else. Understand this. A man who has never been shattered does not know his edges. He is dangerous only to himself. But the man who has watched his empire fall, his status dissolve, his name dragged, and survived, he becomes cold. Not cruel, cold. He no longer reacts. He calculates. Psychologically, this is known as post-traumatic growth. But I do not use such modern euphemisms. I call it what it Isaac's strategic mutation. It is when the mind, cornered and crushed, begins to sharpen. When your sense of self burns down and, in its place, a weapon is forged. This is how true power begins. Do you remember the first time you were betrayed? Not just disappointed, but gutted. Think of the exact moment, the words, the look in their eyes. Now ask yourself, what did that event teach you? If your answer is nothing, then you are still bleeding, still soft, still prey. But if your answer is structure, strategy, silence, then you have begun to evolve. Let me make something clear. This evolution is not emotional. It is functional. You don't change because you deserve better. You change because you need better tools. Do you know why lions do not fear betrayal? Because they remember who tried them last. Memory is armor. Ruin is resource. But only if you collect it deliberately. Some of you want to be whole again. I must disappoint you. Wholeness is an illusion sold to fools who wish to be embraced. You do not need to be whole. You need to be effective. Let the pieces that shattered stay shattered. Gather only what serves your new structure. What is that structure made of? Cold awareness, emotional detachment, tactical relationships, calculated ambition. You will find this the more you rebuild with intention. The less you are affected by the chaos of others. They cannot pull you into their storms. Why? Because your foundation was chosen, not inherited. The man who builds from ruin is freer than the man who never fell. Because he chose each stone, he knows what every crack costs, and he will never lay a piece without purpose again. The world will call you hardened, Let them, was the lie. They don't understand what it means to survive with clarity, to lose everything and still be standing, now less visible, but far more dangerous. So when you look at your scars, don't wish them away. Trace them like a map, because they lead directly to the throne you're about to build. And as for those who caused the fall, keep them close. Not for revenge, for reference. Because next time you won't fall, you'll be the one watching. Now, let us move on. You have torn down the old world. But what good is demolishing if you don't know how to rewrite the script behind your eyes? Next thing, control the narrative. Internally first. Let's go deeper. Power begins in silence. Not the silence others impose on you, but the silence you command within yourself. Ask yourself, who controls your story? Is it you, or the chaos of your emotions, the whims of others, the echoes of your past? Before you move a finger, before you speak your first word to the world, you must own the throne inside your mind. Consider this, a prince who loses control of his court's narrative loses his throne before the sword is drawn. And you are no different. Your mind is your court. Your thoughts the courtiers. If they whisper doubts and fears unchecked, your power dissolves like mist at dawn. But if you command their voices, shape their truths, you wield an unseen scepter more potent than any blade. Reflect on Cesare Borgia, feared, ruthless, master of perception. His power was not only in armies or alliances, but in the stories he spun. He controlled rumors, appearances, even how men felt in his presence. When his enemies whispered rebellion, he rewrote their doubts into despair. Why was he feared? Because he mastered internal narrative. Not just his own, but the world's view of him. Now turn inward. Do you allow your thoughts to be invaded by the ghosts of failure? Do you feed your mind with regrets and what-ifs? If so, you have surrendered your inner court to traitors. Psychology calls this cognitive distortion, the mind's tendency to twist reality toward pain. But you will not be a prisoner to false narratives. You will be the editor of your own mind's story. How? First, identify the lies you tell yourself. I am not enough. I cannot change. They will never respect me. Each is a dagger aimed at your resolve. Recognize them. Call them what they are, deceptions. Next, replace them with ruthless truths. I have survived worse. My strength grows in shadows. Respect is commanded, not begged. This is not fluff. It is strategy. You are reprogramming your court. Silencing the disloyal, rewarding the loyal. History is full of men who lost kingdoms because they lost their internal narrative. Look at King Louis XVI of France. The revolutionaries did not merely seize his palace. They shattered his belief in his own right to rule. His internal narrative crumbled, and with it, his power. Contrast him with Otto von Bismarck, the Iron Chancellor. In the darkest political storms, his internal narrative was steel-clad. He convinced not only his enemies but himself that unification of Germany was inevitable. That certainty, that control, was a weapon that carved history. Now, let me ask you, how often do you question your internal narrative? Do you let every fear, every doubt set the tone of your day? Or do you sit silently, a watchful ruler in your mental palace, deciding what thoughts may enter, what must be banished? This is psychological warfare. Every thought allowed unchecked is a foothold for weakness. Every belief unexamined is a betrayal of your future self. You must become your own greatest strategist. Not by whim or hope, but by deliberate command. Begin by creating rituals to reinforce your chosen truths. Daily reflection. Meditation on your strengths and goals. Journal the victories, small and large, no matter how hidden. This builds an internal narrative that supports power, not pity. Remember, power is perception. And perception is shaped first within. If you believe yourself broken, so will others. If you present yourself as fractured, so will your enemies attack. But if your mind is a fortress, unyielding, and your narrative a sharp sword, then even the fiercest storm will break against you and fall apart. You cannot control the outside world until you master the inside one. Your internal narrative is the first battlefield, and it must be won before you engage the outside. Do you want to be a puppet of circumstance or the master of your fate? Control your story, or someone else will write it for you. And when they do, you become their pawn, their spectacle, their victim. The choice is yours. In the coming segment, we will explore how to wield this internal narrative, not just for yourself, but as a tool to conceal your transformation until the moment of power is undeniable. Because control begins quietly, but it ends with command. Prepare to learn the art of silent ascendancy. Your throne awaits. Power is not announced. It is seized. Quietly, deliberately, without fanfare. Ask yourself, why does the world tremble at a sudden storm, but scoff at a brewing one? Because the storm that is seen coming is prepared for. The storm that strikes without warning, unseen and unchallenged, crushes all resistance. Your transformation, your rise from ashes, must be such a storm, hidden, silent, deadly. Have you ever noticed how the clever prince never reveals his plans? Not because he fears ridicule, because the moment of revelation is his greatest weapon. Consider the art of war. If you parade your army openly, your enemies prepare defenses, form alliances, and strike preemptively. But if you mask your forces, feign weakness, or vanish entirely, when you strike, they are broken before they understand the battle has begun. Look at Hannibal crossing the Alps. No one expected the Carthaginian general to dare such a feat. The Romans were caught unprepared, shattered not just by the army, but by the audacity of surprise. Your transformation must be Hannibal's crossing, not a slow parade. Psychologically, this is the mastery of strategic ambiguity. You keep your enemies, and even your eyes, unsure of what you truly are becoming. Why? Because when you reveal too soon, you give them time to adapt, to manipulate, to undermine. Do you want to give your enemies a map to your fortress? Or do you want them wandering in the dark, stumbling into traps you have laid? This principle applies to the internal world as well. How often do you announce your ambitions prematurely? How often do you share your doubts or your plans before they are fully formed? Every time you do, you expose weakness, invite criticism, and open doors for sabotage. You must learn to conceal, not from shame, but from strategy. It is a paradox many fail to understand. True power is often invisible until it is irrefutable. Take Leonardo da Vinci. He did not flaunt every sketch or invention as soon as it was conceived. He worked in shadows, building masterpieces quietly, revealing only when the impact was unavoidable. Your shift is the same. Let others chase illusions. Let them mistake your silence for stagnation. Meanwhile, you build. This concealment also protects your mind. Transformation is a vulnerable process. Expose every crack and they will flood in with judgment and doubt. But shield your metamorphosis behind a veil of calm and certainty. You disarm critics before they can speak. Consider the psychology of impression management. Humans judge based on limited information. What you reveal becomes their entire truth. If you reveal too early, you hand them weapons. Instead, cultivate the art of selective disclosure. Reveal only what strengthens your position. Hold back what could weaken it. Ask yourself, what does the world need to see? What must remain locked behind your eyes? This is not deception for deception's sake. It is control. Control over how you are perceived, and when you strike. History is filled with those who rushed to reveal themselves, only to be dismantled by enemies who had time to prepare. Remember King Richard II, ambitious and ruthless, yet too overt. His enemies united because his intentions were clear too soon. Contrast this with the rise of Octavian, who concealed his ambitions behind humility and patience, only revealing his power when the Senate had no choice but to yield. You want to be Octavian, and this leads to another truth: your moment is not a single event. It is a calculated crescendo. Like a master musician, you build tension in silence. You prepare your instruments. You set the stage. And then, at the precise moment, you unleash your symphony. A display so powerful that opposition crumbles in awe and confusion. How do you prepare for this crescendo? By controlling every piece of information, external and internal. Externally, be ambiguous. Internally, be decisive. Your actions should hint, never shout. Your silence should speak louder than words. And when the time comes to reveal your transformation, do so with unmistakable power, because nothing breaks the will of your adversaries more than a force they never saw coming. Now, reflect. How many transformations have you broadcasted prematurely? How many chances have slipped because you wanted validation, sympathy, or applause too soon? This is the folly of the impatient. You will learn to wait, to conceal until weaponized, because the man who reveals too early is a man who loses twice. Once in the battle, once in the court of public opinion. Prepare to master this art in the next segment. We will dive into how to turn your emotional scars into armor, crafting a mind no one can manipulate. Until then, remember, the greatest power is the power of surprise. And your shift must be a storm. Silent until it shatters everything in its path. Pain is a wound. But scars are armor. Ask yourself, have your past betrayals, your humiliations, your darkest moments, have they broken you or built you? Most men bleed endlessly from their wounds, refusing to let them close. They carry raw pain like a banner of weakness, hoping for pity, for healing. But you will learn to wear your scars like the cuirass of a warrior, hard, unyielding, and cold to the touch. History is littered with those who turned torment into invincibility. Take Marcus Aurelius, emperor and philosopher. He faced plague, rebellion, and personal loss, yet never allowed his pain to weaken his command. Instead, he used it to temper his resolve. His meditations are not pleas for comfort, but manuals of endurance. Lessons in turning suffering into strength. Why did he survive where others fell? Because he transformed emotional scars into strategic armor. You too must do this. Your traumas are not liabilities. They are your most valuable assets. Consider psychological studies on resilience. Those who survive trauma best are not those who avoid pain. They are those who extract meaning from it, who reframe the wound as a lesson, the betrayal as intelligence. The mind, once a battlefield of chaos, becomes a fortress. But how? First, by dissecting your pain coldly, not drowning in grief, but studying it like a tactician studying enemy lines. Who struck the blow? Why did it hurt so deeply? What weakness did it reveal? These questions are your forge. Every answer is a piece of armor you craft for your next battle. Look at Queen Elizabeth I. Betrayed by nobles, threatened by foreign powers, shamed by personal scandals. She emerged, the Virgin Queen, not because she was untouched, but because she weaponized her vulnerabilities. She turned whispers into power plays. She masked pain with poise. Her scars made her untouchable. Psychologically, this is the mastery of emotional compartmentalization. You do not erase your scars. You seal them. Allow no poison to leak from old wounds into your present decisions. Do you know how many fall prey to manipulation simply because they have not sealed their emotional scars? They carry old pains into new conflicts, blinded by past ghosts. You will be different. Your scars become your reference points, a map of where you almost broke, and where you choose to rise instead. They give you an edge that no new injury can match. But bewaring this is not numbness. You do not become a stone. You become a blade, cold, sharp, and precise. This requires radical self-awareness. You must learn to recognize when old scars are trying to bleed into new fights. When your decisions are driven not by the present moment, but by ancient pain. Control this leakage. Turn those moments of weakness into moments of power. Consider the example of Abraham Lincoln. Torn by personal loss and national division, he did not collapse under sorrow. He used it to fuel determination. His scars shaped his vision, his empathy, his resilience. And with it, he steered a fractured nation toward unity. Your scars will do the same for you. Each one a reminder not of what broke you, but what made you unbreakable. Now, look inward. What scars do you carry? Are they open wounds or closed armor? Do they drain you or defend you? This is the difference between the weak and the powerful. Those who carry scars as armor are less vulnerable to manipulation, less likely to be controlled by fear or anger, because they have already walked through fire and emerged forged. And this armor serves another purpose. It commands respect. People sense strength born from struggle. They instinctively defer to those who show resilience, but only when that resilience is worn with quiet confidence, not with cries for sympathy. The world does not reward the wounded. It rewards the armored. So do not hide your scars. Do not pretend they do not exist, but do not brandish them as weaknesses. Wear them like a prince wears his crown, not for vanity, but as a symbol of power earned through trial. Remember, the greatest leaders are not those who avoid pain, but those who let pain make them. And you are no exception. You have the choicing, blide endlessly or armor up and advance. Your next step is to learn how to replace the futile search for redemption with a ruthless focus on utility, because power is not born from healing. Power is born from function, and function is forged in the fire of scars. Prepare yourself for what comes next. Nexting. Replace redemption with utility. The path ahead is not mercy. It is mastery. Are you ready? You seek redemption. Is that not the desire of the fallen? To be forgiven, to be made whole again, to erase mistakes and return to some imagined purity. But listen well, redemption is a luxury of the weak, a distraction from the true art of survival and conquest. What good is feeling better if you remain powerless? What use is repentance if you lack control? Power does not flow from forgiveness. It flows from utility. Utility, the cold, hard measure of what you can do. Not who you once were, not who you wish to be, but what you are capable of in this moment. Consider the great rules who never asked for mercy, who never sought to cleanse their souls before seizing power. Take Napoleon Bonaparte. Did he beg for redemption after his defeats? No. He recalibrated, adapted, and struck again with ruthless efficiency. His legacy was built not on purity or innocence, but on utility, on his ability to wield power, no matter the cost. Ask yourself, are you rebuilding to be forgiven? Or are you rebuilding to command? The difference is everything. Psychologically, this is the shift from a victim's mindset to a victor's mindset. The victim clings to the past, seeking absolution. The victor looks ahead, wielding what remains as tools, not burdens. What does utility look like? It is discipline. It is adaptability. It is cold calculation. It is the willingness to sacrifice comfort for control. Look at Elizabeth I of England. She bore the weight of a scandalous birth, the threat of assassination and endless political plots. Did she seek to redeem her past? No. She embraced her utility, crafting an image of strength, mystery, and unshakable authority. Her personal history mattered less than her ability to use it to her advantage. What part of your past can you use? What skills, what lessons, what scars are your weapons? You must discard sentimental attachments, Redemption is emotional, utility is tactical. Do you cling to guilt or resentment? You sabotage yourself. Do you channel these into strategic power? You become unstoppable. Utility demands one more truth. You rebuild not to be loved. You rebuild to be feared or respected. The masses crave redemption stories. Princes do not. A prince does not apologize for power. He commands it. Remember Julius Caesar. He crossed the Rubicon not to beg Rome's forgiveness, but to seize control. His past mistakes mattered less than his present will. You will learn to measure yourself by what you do, not by what you regret. This is the ruthless clarity of utility. No more illusions of innocence. No more waiting for absolution. You act, you adapt, you conquer. And when the world asks why you are not healed, you smile coldly and answer, I am not here to heal. I am here to rule. Are you prepared to abandon the hollow hope of redemption? To embrace the brutal efficiency of utility? The next phase of your transformation demands it. In the next segment, we will reveal how to forge your internal narrative into a fortress of unshakable control. Because without it, utility is wasted on cows. Prepare yourself. Power waits for no one. Power is wielded in shadows, not by brute force, but by unseen strings. Control without knowledge is the greatest conquest. You move others like pieces. Silent, precise, untraceable. Ask yourself who truly holds power, he who shouts commands, or he who whispers and bends wills. You must become the whisper in the chaos. Invisible yet irresistible. The greatest victories come before the battle is even known. Before your enemy suspects a hand guides their fate. This is the cold art you must master. To control without exposure, to dominate without resistance. Now, show your intent. Share your reflections below. What truths did you uncover? Subscribe if you seek the ruthless wisdom others fear to speak. And share this strategy with those ready to ascend beyond mere survival. Remember, power is not given. It is taken. In silence, in cunning, in calculated will. The game continues. Will you rise?